Okay, so I want to point out some things here. The Star Barracks, these buildings that if you looked at them from an aerial photograph, they look like stars. They're going to be demolished by the city. We're going down, obviously, we're going down Avenue of the Palms. You can see this green belt to your left here. So this green expanse here, this is where the location of the prisoner of war camp was during the last 2 years of World War II. And approximately 1,000 POWs were at one time resided here during the last 2 years of the war. No, in this green expanse area. There used to be a series of buildings in 1944, 1945, 1946 here that housed the POWs. They've all, of course, long been demolished.
Weren't their use transferred also to barracks and schools up in the front?
Okay. So, and these Star Barracks, again, they'll be demolished. This is where the sailors live. Most of the sailors on base live. Okay, and we're coming up to a couple things. Yeah, Darius, we can go. Obviously, the beautiful view of San Francisco is a big attraction for uses here. Here's the pavilion by the bay, where a lot of activities are scheduled. And again, that's run by TIDA, and they do a lot of scheduling there. Now where we hold our community meetings, our Restoration Advisory Boards meetings, the Navy, if you're coming up to the building on the left here, is the Casa de la Vista. The Navy actually has to schedule it with TIDA. That is not our ability to use. They control the calendar on that. Although we usually get our meeting date as requested. And then off to the left here is the chapel that was built in 1943, and it's one of the few buildings that the city is going to leave for, even with redevelopment, it will remain.
Nimitz Chapel.
And we're coming up on the left here to a building you might recognize, whether you're a resident or not. You might recognize it not just because you pass by it all the time, but it was used in Indiana Jones in the Last Crusade movie. It was Spielberg filmed it as a backdrop for the 1940s Berlin airport. And this building 1 here is, of course, going to remain. And it's where Patricia McFadden at the caretaker site office resides. That's where our and this is also where Bob Beck works in building 1. And one of the initial intentions of building 1 was also to serve as one of the terminals for the airport, if the airport were ever to come to fruition. And that was going to be one of the uses. So we're heading down here, and we're going to pass by another large building where the winery is. You may be familiar with that. And that is not a historical building, that's just a large warehouse. But that's between Building 1 and Building 2. Building 1, Building 2, and Building 3 were all built for the Golden Gate International Exposition, better known as the World's Fair. The World's Fair of 1939 and 1940. You can see a beautiful view off to your right of Clipper Cove, the bridge, and we'll talk a little bit more about Clipper Cove in a moment. And then we're coming up on Building 2. And again, Building 2 is used in the World's Fair. Yeah, I think we want to go down to the next one here. So, and Building 2 is used in the World's Fair. I believe it was the Hall of Air Transportation. And it featured a lot of novelties in aviation. And Clipper Cove, where we're headed to, where you've got a nice view of, Clipper Cove back in the day, in the 40s, used to be where seaplanes would land and pull in. And the seaplanes would be maintained out of Building 2. And Building 2 is also leased out. We've had some pretty high-profile clients in last few years want to use Building 2, mostly for research and development because of the huge square footage. Okay, and we're going down here. As you probably know, you see little sailboats out here. It's a marina. It's still the original marina footprint of the Navy, which has about 100 slips, 100 places for boats. When it's redeveloped by the city of San Francisco, it will quadruple in size to about 400 slips. And this is going to be one of the sooner rather than later projects that the city, once they obtain the property, will start working on.